Hi, my name is Kinga. Welcome to City Lights on Novus TV. I'm about to sit down with a man whose body of work is really well known for its controversial nature surrounding the fringe topic of conspiracy theories. And he's right here in Vancouver, all the way from the UK, on his worldwide wake-up tour, gearing up to give one of his marathon day-long discussions at the Orpheum Theatre. I'm about to sit down with the man himself, world-renowned researcher, writer, and speaker, David Icke. All right, David, welcome to Vancouver.
Thank you.
You are here for the first time after 15 years,
Yes.
and I understand Vancouver has a special affinity for you. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it does, because when I started out nearly 30 years ago now on this journey of uncovering what's really going on in the world and who's really behind world events, in those days, no one wanted to know. I mean, no one wanted to know. And from 1996, I tried to go around America and talk about it. And funny enough, it never is in my life. It's not just about talking about it when you travel, it's about learning more. I learned a phenomenal amount in the months that I spent on several occasions going around North America. But I was still talking to nobody. I mean, I talked near Chicago to 8 people. I was talking to people's front rooms. And you know, you reach the point where, what's the point? And there was a guy in Vancouver who'd contacted me independently some time ago before, called Joseph Duggan. But this guy brought me into Vancouver, and amid the 8 people and people's front rooms and being put on at the last speaker at the end of multi-speaker conferences when everyone's gone home, oh, that's that conspiracy bloke, you'll put him on last. That's what it was like. And then I came to Vancouver, and there was a room of 250 people for a room of 250 people. It was full, it was packed, I couldn't believe it. And I came back the next year with Joseph again, we got 350. He came back the next year, got 750. The next year we got over 1,000. Then I came back the next year, we're going to do 2,000. But you know, Vancouver is very, very special to me because it gave me that boost that kept me going when all seemed, you know, what's the point?
So you have been traveling the world, giving these hours and hours long discussions out of things that, quite frankly, kind of sound like something out of a sci-fi movie. Why are people coming to see you?
And what I've found now over the years, indeed even on this world speaking tour over the last 18 months, things you start out talking about, but by the time we get to now, are happening. So in short, the world that we perceive to be reality on all levels, whether it's political, whether it's the nature of reality itself, is so dramatically different to what we're actually experiencing. Now, what you said, why are people coming to the talks? Well, that gap, not among the vast majority yet, but among greatly more than I've ever seen before, that gap between sense of the possible and looking at things in a different way, it's closing. So even some of the more far out things that appear far out to what we call the norm, people are now starting to encompass for a simple reason. It makes sense.
So in your work, your books and your talks, you share a lot of information. So what makes you privy to all of this so-called secret information, and why isn't it so obvious to the rest of us?
Well, I have a phrase, you don't need a scientific mind to understand reality, you need an open one. So there are no conspiracies, and therefore people shut their mind to going into the areas that I go, pursuing facts to justify the fact that there's a conspiracy. And if you won't go where the evidence and the facts are to prove it, then you are going to go through your life believing it doesn't exist, because you won't go where the evidence is, and you won't listen to those who've gone there where the evidence, always conspiracy theorists. And when you think that the term conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist came into widespread use in the 1960s, none of them realized that the terms they're using originated with the CIA in the 60s.
Well, I think that corruption, largely is pretty pedestrian knowledge, political, corporate, financial corruption. But some of the other things you talk about may seem really out there to a lot of people, such as the moon is a spaceship, or that we are being run by reptiles, and so on and so forth. So, like, when you say things like that, and I have to ask, are you asking people to abandon their reasoning?
No, I'm asking them to kick-start it. Give me an example. Actually, that's a very, very good question going on from what we've been talking about for this reason. This room, I suppose, will have Wi-Fi in it. Where is it? Where is it? Let me put it in this way. If people were in this room and knew nothing about computers, nothing at all, and I said, do you know, there is an invisible field of information in this room that is a whole global collective reality which you can tap into in South Africa, in Canada, in Britain, in Australia, wherever. And you can turn it onto a screen to look like graphics and moving pictures and all this stuff. People would go, you're mad. So what you do is you make sure that mainstream science overwhelmingly operates within this tiny band of the possible. And then you keep the population in ignorance of what reality really is, and therefore in a sense of limitation, in a sense of I can't, in a sense of this can't be happening because it's not possible. And like I said earlier, what's happening now is more and more mainstream scientists have come to the conclusion where this band of limitation it's just not tenable anymore with the evidence they're coming across, and thus they're starting to speak outside of the box. Self-identify with being a state of awareness, having an experience. That puts you in a position of a sense of power, a sense of enormity. I am consciousness having this experience.
Well, I want to talk about you for a second, because
Okay.
I know that delivering this information has not always, if ever, has been easy for you in your career. I know that one of your first breakout interviews was on the Terry Wogan show in 1991, and you and your family went through quite a bit of ridicule following
quite a bit.
that. And so I'm wondering how, if that's different, if that's lightened up a bit, and how do people treat you now when you go and visit your hometown of Leicester?
Well, I've actually not been back to my hometown for a long time, but I'm going to speak there early next year, so we'll see. But when you say I got a bit of ridicule, I got historic levels of ridicule. I couldn't walk down any street in Britain without being laughed at. A comedian on the telly only had to say my name and get a laugh. There's no joke was necessary. But it gave me a wonderful gift, and it gave me a gift without which I couldn't have done what's followed. When you literally live your life, as I did for a while, to the sound of laughter, distant or close up, one of two things happens. Either you completely go under, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and it destroys you, or you come out of it with steel. And steel not in a sense of resisting the ridicule or resisting the abuse. You said about me, what? Not giving a damn about it.
So how encouraged are you at the prospect of humanity taking back their authentic power?
Well, I'm more optimistic than I was nearly 30 years ago, when I was talking to no one and coming to Vancouver and thinking, phew, at least some people want to listen. What taking our power back means, then this can come down very quickly, because there is a simple piece of mathematics. 7.5 billion people are currently being manipulated and having their lives directed in a very sinister direction. A comparative, and I mean handful, a comparative handful of that 7.5 billion. Tiny, tiny number compared with that is doing the directing. So I see a way out of this, which is why there has to be such a fierce firewall on the information that points out who's doing it and how few are doing it. Because when people see how few are actually doing it, then the idea that the all-powerful state is in control is seen to be what it is, a fallacy and a hoax and an illusion.
No question, when you sit down with a man like David Icke, you're going to be given a lot to ponder and to think about. And it's good to have access to all the information so you can decide whether to accept it, reject it, or ask more questions. If you'd like to know more about David Icke and what he does, visit his website, davidicke.com. My thanks to David for joining us for the discussion today and to you for watching. My name is Kinga and I'm here for City Lights on Novus TV.